Irashaimase. Hello and welcome to Fataris' Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fataris. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this week we have RedRaptor, a classics-inspired shoot 'em up. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. From developer Novax Games and publisher East Asia Soft, RedRaptor released in October of 2023 for the Xbox One and Series, the PlayStation 4 and 5, the PC, and the Switch, which is the version we're looking at today. So this is really kind of your standard vertical scroller, but it does have an upgrade system that sets it apart. You defeat enemies to collect coins, and then you apply permanent upgrades to your ships after you complete that run. However, the thing I do want to go and note about that is overall the whole upgrade system in this one feels just a little underwhelming, and thus the whole cycle of doing runs to generate coins is not all that fun. The game is also short, so short and grindy doesn't necessarily equal good. Even at a low price point, I do have a hard time recommending this one. So with all that said, let's dive into the game. You can kind of make your opinion based off of what you see. So from the main menu, we have the ability to go into a new game, or we can go into that upgrades menu that I mentioned. There's also an online leaderboards and settings with mostly sound settings, and there is also a CRT filter that you can apply to the screen. It doesn't really change things substantially. In your new game, you can select campaign mode, and after you've completed campaign mode, arcade mode becomes available. The two modes are identical, save for the fact you can continue to loop arcade mode, so although point-wise, you will earn more points in campaign mode, so keep that in mind. Both points and coins. Starting the game, before we get going, one thing to note, this font can be extremely hard to read on a Nintendo Switch in handheld mode especially, and in the tutorial section there's this checkered background of gray and black that is just a bad choice for the type of font and where they have it placed. But fortunately there isn't a whole lot of text to go and read in the game overall, so it's not that big of an issue. So this is RedRaptor. It's a relatively straightforward vertical scroller where the only main button we're using is our shot. So at this point, this is what a fully upgraded ship looks like. If you're starting the game with just your level 1 without having purchased any upgrades, then the gameplay will be more like this. So instead of having a really wide main shot, we only have a single beam, and there are no wingmen, basically options, to assist us with extra damage. Jumping back to the main game, so the loop that we have here is that as we go and defeat enemies, they'll drop coins, and those coins will fly towards us, accumulating in such a way that we can purchase them afterwards. One thing to note, in the first stage, those coins look very, very close in color to the enemy shots, and once again, that was causing me a lot of confusion when I was first playing. One thing to note, you don't take damage from contacting most enemies. There are a few that will damage you. It's just the enemy shots you have to watch out for. In most cases, there are a couple enemies where that is not the case, so you can kind of do some trial and error to figure out what it is that will hurt you and what won't. So the stage itself is, from progression standpoint, is relatively straightforward. The enemies will appear in reasonable patterns, and we do have some stage obstacles like this where there's bullets that we have to dodge between. Nothing too particularly difficult, but you will see obstacles like this in most of the stages. Throughout the course of the run, there are going to be enemies that drop 6 different power-ups. So this is one of them here. This H will replenish our health by, I believe, about 3 hearts. So I was only down half a heart there, so it'll go and refill that to full. But your hearts are basically like your lives. You can take hits, and once all the hits are, you've expended all your hits, then of course it's game over. In addition to that, there are 4 shop-based upgrades that we can potentially get. There's one that increases our damage, so basically damage up. One that gives us what's referred to as a B bullet. It's basically kind of like a wave that we go and fire forward from the ship, about in the same pattern as the shots you might be able to go and see from the wingmen or the options, whatever we want to go and call them. There's also a rocket, which fires 2 vertical rockets from the ship, and my favorite, the S-bullet, which basically gives us a nice wide spread. So I'll definitely point that out if I happen to obtain that particular power-up, as I feel in a lot of ways it's like the most useful power-up that we can get in the game. So this is our first boss. I'm going to go and take this slow so I can take a little bit of time to describe things as we go. So here's another H power-up to refill our life. So the boss fights are interesting, as of the 5 bosses, 4 of them are multi-phased. So as we deal enough damage to the boss, it'll ultimately run away as it has here, and then it'll come back after we've defeated the minions with some damage visible on the ship itself. And that's one thing that's really nice. You can also see there's that skull in the middle of the health bar on the top of the screen. That also signifies another phase in the fight. So we finish this fight, and we move on to the last phase. The only boss that deviates from this is the 3rd stage boss, as they're more stationary, defensive-like type turret, rather than a ship like we go and see with the rest of the game's bosses. So now here's where we start talking about some of the issues that I have with the game itself. So before we get to this part of this the game, there's a relatively lengthy before the boss just downtime of dead air, if you defeat the enemies too quickly. And this is something that kind of persists throughout the course of the game, where there's a lot of just little things here and there that I feel kind of slow the pacing of the game or disrupt it in ways that are counterproductive to your overall enjoyment. The second stage, one thing I thought was kind of interesting is that a screen overlay just makes this look a little bit busier than it needs to. So here I have a great choice of power-ups. I can get the P, which is the power-up, the R for the rocket, or the S for the S-bullet. So, as I said, the S-bullet is in a lot of ways, my opinion, the best upgrade you can get in the game, as it provides you a lot of coverage for the screen, and it deals a significant amount of damage. One thing to note, if you pick up any other power-up, it will overwrite that, including the P, which is the damage up. That one also overwrites your current power-up, so you do have to be careful of that. So, and there we have it. That's basically RedRaptor served up for your enjoyment. So let's take a quick moment to pop into the shop, and you can see from here a little bit of what we have upgrade-wise. So as far as the shop is concerned, you have upgrades that will upgrade your health. This basically gives you additional hits that you can go and take, basically extra 1-ups. You can also increase your weapon. This increases how many lasers, or basically how wide our beam is. Then we also have the damage, which this is the one that's the most underwhelming to me, as it ultimately feels like the damage was, or it just isn't scaled correctly. Upgrading your damage doesn't provide a significant improvement over not having that. Then you also have the ability to upgrade our laser, which I haven't shown you yet, but I will momentarily. You can also upgrade and purchase wingmen. Then there's a couple upgrades that provide for other more passive uses. One that will warp us to stage 5, which is actually the final stage in the game, and one that doubles our income. It says at the end of the run, but really it actually just doubles your earnings at the end of the first stage. So you can purchase that, run the first stage, and then continue to loop that if you want to basically buy out the shop as quickly as possible. This is what the shop looks like when you're initially starting out, so this is everything at base. And then, popping back into the gameplay itself, so there was one weapon that I haven't talked about. That's our ultimate. So as we're defeating enemies, we've been building up a meter on the right over there, which is now that it's full, it's blinking ready. So when you're ready to go and use that weapon, you can press the Y button on the Switch controller and laser gun activated. You get this huge text that prints out over the course of the screen, letting you know you've activated your laser. And the ship goes and transforms into kind of a mech form. And if you also have wingmen, they start firing lasers as well. At base power, it only lasts 10 seconds and doesn't deal a lot of damage. But once you start to upgrade it, it lasts longer and deals significantly more damage. So that's something that you want to do overall if you're looking to get that awesome laser gun activated text flying across your screen. So here we find ourselves at the boss for stage 2, so let's go ahead and go over some of the plus and minus flavors for the game itself. So ultimately, my biggest issue with the game is just the whole damage system. The upgrades don't feel really worth it. Buying additional health definitely is, but the rest of it feels just underwhelming. The game definitely comes across as very grindy overall, as we'll be spending a lot of time just playing through the first several stages, building up coins to purchase those upgrades. Some of the power-ups I just don't like as well. The damage up power-up just doesn't feel like it does enough to justify using it. I would have really appreciated if the game had a focus movement as well, as there are some sections where things are quite bullet helly, and not being able to finally control yourself through some of those clouds of bullets can lead to extra damage taken. And lastly, just some of the what kind of feels like a little bit of a lax playtesting, where there are situations where there'll be a dead air in the gameplay or other issues like that. Just kind of makes me feel like this game could have used just a bit more polish before it was released. As far as the plus flavors are, the base gameplay itself is solid enough that you can go and enjoy a loop or two of the game, but the downside of that is it ultimately does feel boring after that. And then, lastly, the thing that is kind of fun about it is you have that super awesome laser guns activated text flying across the screen when you do use your ultimate. And there you have it, RedRaptor served up for your enjoyment. Ultimately, not an experience that I really can recommend, but if you like what you have here, at least the price point is on the lower side. Alright, that'll just about wrap it up for this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful week, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.